Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pot Planet Entertainment. My name is Chris, and today I am going to be talking about the movies that inspired me. If you follow my channel, you know this is a channel where I specifically discuss movies and filmmaking, and I want to talk about the movies that shaped me into the person I am today. These are the movies that made Chris Darden. Some of these movies I grew up on, as some of these movies just continue to inspire me and my love for filmmaking every single day. So the first movie, these are, by the way, these are in no specific order. I couldn't order these, so these are just in a completely random order. But here are the 10 movies that inspired me. So the first movie on my here is Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon is my all-time favorite movie. I love and adore this movie. I love everything about it. It's not it's an action movie, but it's not as much about the action. I didn't really realize this until recent viewing, but it's not really about the action. It's more about the relationship between these two characters. It's about a police officer who's on the verge of suicide because his wife died, gets paired up with an easygoing older police officer to work on this case, and they don't exactly get along, and they have to overcome their differences to solve this case. And it's forms one of the most iconic movie friendships of all time. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover have some of the greatest chemistry ever seen between two actors ever. The action is very good in this. The story is good in this. The humor is good in this. This movie means so much to me. This is actually me and my girlfriend's our favorite movie. You know, every couple has like a song, and me and my girlfriend, we have a song, but we also have a movie, and it's Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon, I think, is one of the greatest movies of all time. I love everything about this movie. It means so much to me. And if you haven't seen it, I couldn't recommend it more. This, to me, is the greatest movie of all time. I know it's not the greatest movie of all time, but to me, this will always be the greatest movie of all time. Next up is Jaws. I even have a big Jaws poster right here. Jaws is, what can you say about Jaws? It's a masterpiece. Jaws is Spielberg's baby. Before Jaws, Spielberg had made a few movies, but none of them were big hits. And then he made Jaws, one of the most difficult movies to make ever. Is Jaws. This movie was just supposed to be a low-funded B movie that people would go to, have a fun time at the theater during the summer, and then forget about immediately. And it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Jaws, it was so difficult to make because they ran after issue. They ran into issue after issue after issue after issue to the point where Steven Spielberg would have nightmares about never finishing this movie, and he was almost fired numerous times from the project. I know that when this was over, like I read somewhere that Steven Spielberg and Richard Dreyfuss, they went back to their hotel and started jumping and screaming that they were finally done making this movie. It took them 6 months to make this movie, and a movie only takes 3 months to film. Yeah. So, but it's a masterpiece, and this movie, even though this came out in 1975, it still holds up. The shark still looks good. The shark still looks real. This movie is cemented. This movie, just like Back to the Future, Child's Play, they're cemented. These movies are never going to look bad. They're always going to look great. And this movie, to this day, still makes people afraid to go in the water. After this movie came out, shark sightings increased by so much because, and this was also the first movie to reach $100 million in the box office, and it was the first movie to have a bunch of merchandise sold for it. Like, you ever seen like t-shirts for a movie and mugs and lunchboxes and things like that? This was the first movie to have that. This movie was expected to bomb, and it really is one of the absolute greatest films ever made. I actually run a fan page for this movie on Instagram. It's Jaws_fan_club if you want to follow that page. I've been running it since I was like 14. Now I'm 20. I turn 21 next month. Yeah, Jaws is an absolute masterpiece. I cannot speak highly enough of this film. It really, really, in so many ways, inspired my love of filmmaking. And a big reason why I love movies is because of this movie. I seriously cannot speak highly enough of it. I love and adore this movie, and I will cherish this movie until the day I die. Up next is, I'm going to cheat here a little bit, is the entire Indiana Jones franchise. When I was a kid, first thing I got into was Star Wars, okay? And then after that, I discovered Indiana Jones, and I have been in love with Indiana Jones ever since. I was obsessed with these movies when I was a kid. In fact, I loved these movies so much that I once wrote Harrison Ford a fan letter because I love these movies so much. I even like this one. This one, if you can believe it, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was actually my favorite one when I was a kid. Now, obviously, I've grown up and I've learned to recognize the issues with it. You know, it's definitely my least favorite of the four now. But this series really, really helped shape my love of film. I used to watch documentaries and do research on how these movies were made all the time. I loved learning about how these movies were made. I loved learning about the canon in the Indiana Jones franchise. This meant the world to me as a child, and I still love it to this day. Indiana Jones truly is the greatest action hero of all time. I'm never gonna stop treasuring these movies ever. Even this one, I kind of like this one. I don't love it, but I still kind of like this one. Even though I do recognize the major flaws it has. But yeah, Indiana Jones. I love these films, and I've reviewed this one on my channel, but I haven't reviewed these three. I will review these three eventually. But yeah. And then up next, I mentioned Star Wars is Star Wars. Star Wars, especially the first three, episodes 4, 5, and 6, Star Wars means so much to so many people around the world. Everyone likes Star Wars, at least a little bit. At least a little bit. Star Wars, even though a lot of the Star Wars movies aren't considered to be great, Star Wars has had a huge impact on pop culture. When the first Star Wars movie came out in 1977, it changed the world, it changed filmmaking, and it changed pop culture forever. Star Wars, I cannot speak highly enough of the world of Star Wars. It's so interesting, and it's so fun. Everything about Star Wars it's just great. Again, even though some of the movies aren't great, just Star Wars as a whole has inspired so many people. There are so many like YouTube channels that are entirely dedicated to talking about Star Wars. People love Star Wars, and I am definitely one of those people. I have Star Wars on my hat here. I love Star Wars so much. So much. My favorite Star Wars character of all time is Captain Rex. I love Star Wars so much. Star Wars is the greatest story ever told. The greatest story ever told, other than the birth and the life of Jesus Christ. Star Wars is the greatest story ever told. And I'm never going to stop loving Star Wars ever. And I cannot wait to have my own kids to show them the original Star Wars trilogy and see the looks on their faces when they experience it for the very first time. Because they're going to love it too. I know they will. Up next is Men in Black. Men in Black, I feel like, even though people love this movie, I feel like people don't love this movie enough. This movie is great. This is a great, great movie. Men in Black, the chemistry between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones is phenomenal. They had really good chemistry together. This movie is downright hilarious. The special effects still hold up, even though this movie came out, what? Did this come out the same year I was born? I think this came out in 99, didn't it? Or did it come out in 98? Let me see. Does it say on here? 97, actually. I was born in 1999. This came out in 97. And Will Smith actually originally turned down the role for this because he just did Independence Day, and he didn't want to be known as the alien guy. And then Steven Spielberg, who produced this movie, he called him back and he said, look, don't think about this one. Just do it. And because of Steven Spielberg's reputation, he trusted his opinion, and he reconsidered, and he said yes, and he never looked back. Men in Black is an incredible, hilarious sci-fi movie. It's got great action, the great comedy, great costumes. The theme song is great. Everything about Men in Black, it's just, you love it. You love everything about Men in Black, you know. the camaraderie between these two is just so great. It makes for such great screen time. These two eat up the screen throughout the entire movie. It's got these really good reveals. Like you find out like ordinary people that that you see every day are actually aliens in disguise, and a lot of celebrities are aliens, such as Steven Spielberg, for example, Sylvester Stallone, George Lucas, all these guys, Elvis. All these guys are actually aliens, and it really works aliens into our pop culture, which is really, really cool. Men in Black is incredible. I love this movie. I love the whole franchise, but especially the first one. Up next is Back to the Future. What can you say about Back to the Future that hasn't already been said? Like I said before, it is cemented in special effects lore, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word, but Back to the Future is always going to look great. The cinematography is great. The chemistry between Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd is great. Even though their relationship doesn't really make much sense, who cares? It's great. These two characters are two of the most iconic movie characters of all time. I'm going as Marty McFly for Halloween this year. But yeah, that iconic DeLorean that was a failure car, but that was made super famous by this movie. It's funny, it's charming, it's sweet. Everything about this movie, other than like a couple of plot holes that it has, just screams perfection. This movie was constantly turned down. The script for this movie was constantly turned down by studios until it was finally picked up. And I bet they're all kicking themselves because this is one of the greatest movies ever made. I love Back to the Future. I grew up on this movie. We used to rent it from Blockbuster all the time. I mean, half the time it would stop working at some point in the movie because people wouldn't take care of the disc. But we used to rent this from Blockbuster all the time because we all loved it. We all loved it. I grew up on Back to the Future. And my kids, if I ever have them, they're going to grow up on Back to the Future too. Up next is Rocky. Rocky is the greatest inspirational movie of all time. There was a man who was a small-time boxer who was discovered by Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali gave him a shot at the title. And this guy went all the way to the final round with Muhammad Ali before Muhammad Ali knocked him out in the ring. And Sylvester Stallone watched that fight on TV, and that inspired him to write the script for Rocky about this low-time boxer living in Philadelphia who's barely scaving by with money. And his nickname, the Italian Stallion, the world champion, looks up this book of little-known boxers, and he finds his nickname in there, the Italian Stallion. He liked it, and he gave him a shot at the title as a publicity stunt. And then Rocky went in there and gave one of the greatest boxing fights of all time. I mean, obviously it's not real, but he went in there and he really showed him what the underdog could do. It's the greatest underdog story of all time, the greatest inspirational movie ever made. Sylvester Stallone was magnificent in this movie. The fight sequence at the end is great. It's beautifully acted. The love story between Rocky and Adrian is one of the greatest love stories of all time. This movie, even though when I was a kid, I didn't appreciate it because I was just like, I just want to watch him punch people. But then when I got older, I learned to really appreciate Rocky. The theme song is also really iconic. Gonna Fly. You know, everybody knows the Rocky theme. It's iconic. Everything about this movie is iconic. And this is definitely one of my all-time favorite movies. And this movie inspired me in so many ways. Up next is Jurassic Park. Now, Jurassic Park I didn't grow up on. Some of these movies I didn't grow up on, and this is one of them. I didn't see this one until sometime when I was a teenager. But I've been in love with this movie since the first time I saw it. This movie is the special effects, even though there's some shots where the special effects are kind of questionable now, the special effects still really hold up. And one of the great things about this movie, similar to Jaws, is that Jaws isn't just a monster movie. The characters in that movie are so great that that's what really makes it likable. The shark is just a bonus. Well, it's the same thing with Jurassic Park. You know, the dinosaurs aren't what make this movie great. It's these fantastic, lovable characters. The dinosaurs are just this cool bonus. And this movie takes its time. The first hour of it, not much really happens. And then when you get about an hour into it, it really starts to pick up. But you don't mind that because, excuse me, talking is making my throat dry. You don't really mind it so much because you love these characters so much. We all fell in love with Dr. Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm, who Jeff Goldblum really stole the show in this film. This is an amazing movie. It's an amazing story. And one of the great things about it is that it makes the dinosaurs exist in the modern world in a tangible way. They didn't just say, hey, we brought back dinosaurs. They gave us this cool explanation as to how the dinosaurs were brought to life. Even though it couldn't really happen in real life, it gives you a believable way for the dinosaurs to be there. And that's really, really awesome. Jurassic Park is a masterpiece. And this movie definitely has inspired me in my love of filmmaking. Up next, now, this one may come as quite a surprise, but it's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I know, you definitely weren't expecting that. Look, I discovered this movie when I was a kid, and when I was a kid, we had a TV in our kitchen, and I pulled up a chair to the counter, and I started flipping through the channels because I think probably all the other TVs we only watched that one if we were eating or if all the other TVs in the house were being used. So I was sitting there, I was flipping through the channels, and I came across the scene where Pee-wee is on his bicycle and he's being chased by the Warner Brothers security. And I watched that from there on out, and I loved it. And so I asked my mom about it, she told me about it, and then for like my birthday or Christmas or something, they bought me a copy of the movie. So I finally got to sit down and I got to watch the whole thing, and I loved it. And I still love this movie. This movie is funny, it's charming. I love road trip movies. One of my favorite movies to watch is road trip movies, and this is a road trip movie, and that's part of the reason why I've always really liked this, because I love watching road trip movies. Of course, I didn't grow up on the Pee-wee Kids TV show, because I'm pretty sure I was running before I was born, but, and this movie definitely came out before I was born. This came out 1985, yeah. So this has been out for quite a while. And one of the great things about this is that even though it's based on a kid's show, it's not a kid's movie. Everyone can watch this movie and enjoy it. This is a movie that's fun for everyone to watch. Again, I didn't grow up on Pee-wee's Playhouse, but I did grow up on this movie. I love this movie. This movie is funny. It takes you to a lot of different places that are fun to look at, and it's quirky, it's clever, it's a really good movie. And then last but certainly not least is Air Force One. Now, the Die Hard ripoff. How could that have inspired me more than Die Hard? Okay, truthfully, I didn't see Die Hard until just a couple years ago, but maybe it was a year ago. I don't remember. But Air Force One, see, here's the thing. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies. And so that was like the majority of movies I wanted to watch. This is a rated R movie. And I found a VHS copy of this movie. Actually, I gave it away. I got a VHS copy of this movie. My mom let me watch it. Okay. And I really liked it. And then when she found out it was rated R, she made me turn it off. But I'm pretty sure I secretly watched the rest of it, like, that night. Like, without her knowing. Because I really wanted to finish the movie, because I really liked it. This movie has some of the greatest acting I have ever seen. Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman both got snubbed at the Oscars because Harrison Ford should have won Best Actor in a Leading Role, and Gary Oldman should have won Best Supporting Actor, for sure, because the performances they gave in this movie are breathtaking. All the performances in this movie are really good, but especially the two leads. The acting in this movie is pristine. It's the greatest acting I've ever seen. The only other movie I've seen that I think where the acting might rival this is in Danny Glover's version of A Raisin in the Sun. Fantastic acting. And the acting here is so fantastic. The action here is so fantastic. It feels real. It's suspenseful. The theme song is amazing. Actually, in fact, the theme song for this movie is so amazing that when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, when he was going to give his victory speech, he walked out onto the stage to the theme song of this movie. That's how good the theme song is, this movie. And he has stated this is one of his favorite movies. So that really says something about this movie. This is an incredible, incredible movie. I think it's so underrated. I don't understand why more people don't love this movie. I absolutely love this movie, and secretly watching like the last like 20 minutes of this movie when I was a kid, this movie really inspired me. And I think that people should give this movie more credit. I really do. This has like a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, which is just crazy because this is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece of a film. It's a scary film. It's an intense film. And it's got some of the greatest acting I've ever seen. This movie definitely inspired me. Okay, those are the 10 movies that inspired me and helped shape who I am today. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Power Planet Entertainment for more and hit the like button. Leave movie review suggestions down in the comments down below. Follow me on Instagram at Power Planet Entertainment for channel updates, and much love.